eviction deadline was coming for weeks. Democrats control the House. You guys control the Senate. You guys control the White House. Nothing aggressive was done by leadership until just a couple days ago. Who's to blame here?
Well, I think there's a couple of issues here. First of all, you are absolutely correct in that the House and House leadership had the opportunity to vote to extend the moratorium. And there were many, and there was frankly a handful of conservative Democrats in the House that threatened to get on planes rather than hold this vote. And we have to really just call a spade a spade. We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority. Now, there is something to be said for the fact that...
Wait, the last thing I will say about homeownership is the main difference between someone who is locked into renting for the rest of their lives versus someone who is making home payments or someone who's making mortgage payments is access to capital. That's literally the main difference, and your cash flow overall, and having a good credit score, and a multitude of different things that make it so that you can actually get a loan to be able to put, and also have enough capital to put a down payment so you can get a loan and then pay off your house that way. In a lot of circumstances, yeah, you're not paying for like additional shit that goes wrong in your house when you're a renter, but ultimately, or you're not paying property taxes. But ultimately, you're literally paying more with rent for the rest of your life. If you had like, I don't know, $50,000 or $100,000 that you had been able to save up, which you won't be able to because the budget shortfall is baked into your existence, basically, because being poor is very expensive, being working class is very expensive, you would be able to, at the very least, justify being able to get a loan and put a down payment so that you can turn around and pay mortgage on a property that you now own. And which is incredibly important for, again, generational wealth creation. Yes, rent scales with inflation while mortgage is locked over the 30 years. Yes, exactly. That's the problem. The mortgage rate prices in inflation. Yes, but not in the way that you think. Did you respond to Valkyrie about this? Yes, I did. Oh yeah, here it is. Valkyrie wants to do a nail
I'm gonna try
stream.
to convince him to go get his nails done with me.
Yeah, we're gonna go to a nail salon or something.
4 months.
Anyway, let's get back to AOC.
This court order came down on the White House a month ago, and the White House waited until the day before the House adjourned to release a statement asking on Congress to extend the moratorium. This came after weeks. I sit on the Financial Services Committee, which has jurisdiction over housing. We had, the housing secretary there asking about the administration's stance. We asked the Biden administration about their stance, and they were not being really forthright about that advocacy and that request until the day before the House adjourned. And so the House was put into I believe, a needlessly difficult situation. And it's not just me saying that. Financial Services Chairwoman Maxine Waters has made that very clear as well. And so there's a couple of contributing factors here. We have governors who are also not getting this emergency rental assistance out in time, which is forcing this extension, what we would like an extension of the moratorium. The fact of the matter is that the problem is here. The House should reconvene and call this vote and extend the moratorium. There's about 11 million people that are behind on their rent at risk of eviction. That's 1 out of every 6 renters in the United States.
Congress is out of town for the next 7 weeks. Speaker Pelosi made it clear in a letter to Democrats last night she's not calling the House back. The Senate's here because they got the infrastructure bill. And you heard Manchin say that he thinks that the moratorium should be extended so that these tens of billions of dollars can get out the door. What's your response?
Well, listen, the House adjourned technically for 7 weeks, but I want to be very clear that due to the ongoing negotiations with the bipartisan infrastructure bill, we were given very specific instructions that we are set to adjourn for 7 weeks, but every member of the House of Representatives is currently on a 24-hour callback notice in anticipation of that bipartisan infrastructure bill. So we all have left town with plans to come back within 24 hours if necessary. And I believe that the expiration of the eviction moratorium and having 11 million Americans, 1 out of every 6 renters at risk of being kicked out of their homes, is worth coming back and triggering that 24-hour notice. We cannot leave town without doing our job.
Can you explain to the American people why it is that these tens of billions of dollars that Congress has already passed to help renters, and also, we shouldn't depict, and you're not, but landlords, some of them are small business people. They need the money too, so they can survive. These are not all just Jared Kushner slumlord types, right? And so this money's there. What's the holdup? Why can't it get out the door?
Well, you know, this money was handed over by Congress and the federal government to states and local municipalities to dole
It's kind of, oh my God. Okay.
out. And what that means then is that each individual governor is responsible for establishing these programs. I think that in some states, governors and state administrations might be slow walking this process to get it out. In other states, the administrative burden of setting it up. But there are states and municipalities that have been getting it right. And we're at a point where, frankly, those state governments need to get it together. But we cannot kick people out of their homes when our end of the bargain has not been fulfilled. Out of the $46 billion that has
but we can when it is fulfilled. Like, we shouldn't do that.
been allocated, only $3 billion has gone.
What's the left's opinion on small business landlords? Scum are okay? Okay, so here's the thing. And I've talked about this a billion fucking times, and it bears repeating every single time we talk about landlords, because people fucking have, like, opinions on this that are, unfortunately, too based in fantasized, idealized theory, okay? Landlords are still a parasitic form of making money, okay? Especially on non-commercial, straight up fucking, what do you call it? Like regular properties, like regular real estate that you need, because you're basically cutting off access to a resource. Residential was the word I was looking for. It's considered parasitic because you're basically fucking you're engaging in rent-seeking behavior by shutting off access to a resource that human beings need to be able to survive. It is the most important need, shelter, okay? It's kind of the reason why we built societies, okay? So that we could fucking have shelter and protect one another. It's literally the most important thing. However, unfortunately, in the way that our capitalist economy has been organized, there are, like, people who have worked their entire lives, or who are now, 60 fucking years old, and own an additional unit or an apartment as their fucking nest egg, using that same parasitic concept. Okay? It's like being a leftist and having a 401k. Because being a leftist does not mean you should fucking die when you can no longer work. You should still actively seek to protect yourself and actively seek to, build a future for yourself. So I've talked about the percentage of people that have, like, don't you literally own a square foot of land in England? Yes, I now do. I am a landowner. Anyway, because there is no functional way to ethically fucking survive if you have worked your entire life and don't have any capital. You can't just basically survive on Social Security. There's no such thing as pensions anymore, outside of, like, certain industries. And I guess, like, thank you, Jonah's Book Club, for the 10 of the subs. There's, and pensions themselves are already, like, quite controversial to begin with. But because Social Security payments are not enough to fucking survive, then yes, some people some older people especially, engage in, I have a pension, so that's not true at all. I'm talking about what are you supposed to do? Like, I have a pension, so that's not true at all. I guess, okay, if you don't have a fucking pension, then, fuck this guy's anecdote. Sorry, fuck you, dude. You don't have a pension? Well, this fucking guy does, dude. Sick. It's like saying, it's like an older person being like, well, I fucking bought a house, so that's not true at all. Oh, sick, man. Never mind. The fruits of my labor isn't your retirement money. Fuck your retirement, says Guillotine 2020. Bro, you're fucking 14 years old. Please stop. Okay? Please stop. I dream of a future where there is no more need for fucking landlords. Okay? Not need, but rather there is no more. I understand that. I understand how wonderful it would be if people just simply utilized housing and shelter, not as capital investment or an investment vehicle to make money, but rather as a place that you live, as a place that you live in and use as shelter. Having said that, though, currently in this day and age, good luck. Good luck on, one, gaining enough momentum to build a fucking mass movement that will forcibly remove people from their fucking houses. And then good luck having a take like that when you're talking about a 70-year-old person who's like, yeah, I own a fucking apartment. I can't go to work. What are you going to do? Should a 70-year-old who owns a fucking additional housing unit like literally die? What's the take there? What's the advocacy? What's the argument? In the absence of government interference and public housing and decommodifying housing, which would take years, many, many years, it's fucking psychotic to just be like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if you're, I don't care if you're 65 years old and can't live on fucking Social Security alone. I don't care that you like literally made all the money that you could and like waited for years and years so that finally you could fucking buy a house. And this is the only way that you can, again, survive. You've said how small landlords need that income because they're old or helping pay for the kids' education if they own another house. You've said how small landlords... Yeah, I did say that. A lot of that could be solved if there were appropriate public funding and appropriate public measures and social and safety nets that allowed people to fucking live without any additional help, any additional retirement funds that they had to cultivate and put together. It's also an idiotic take. Like, we're having an argument about like a fraction of the landlord industry, I guess, and avoiding the real fucking main problem, the main source of the problem. I work in higher ed and I started my career in 2008. A pension option immediately went out the window as soon as my career began. Pensions are a wet dream for us. Yeah. Only 17% of Americans have a pension anymore. Larger problem is pensions getting depleted. It's a big factor causing this landlord lead situation, it sounds like. I wish we had appropriate government. I wish we had appropriate government funds so that people didn't have to fucking be landlords, okay? In the absence of that, though, you're fucking, whenever you say shit like, yeah, fuck grandma, I don't give a shit, she can die, then you come across like a delusional psycho. Sorry, it's just the fucking truth. That's what I advocate for. Landlords should decide that since those safety nets don't exist, they can just build one out of the bodies of poor people. No, I understand it. Except they themselves are fucking poor. You make it seem like you make it seem like grandma's caked up. That's what I'm saying. Grandma's engaging in an unethical way of wealth creation for herself. But wealth creation doesn't always imply that you have fucking wealth. But again, it's really, really stupid that nobody's forced to become a landlord. It's the only greedy motherfuckers who want to gain capital in their status. Yes, I'm 14, and every single person that owns a residential fucking unit is actually, big bucks monopoly man over here. This is not a defense of landlords in general, but like you have to be, aware of what the fuck you're saying. Again, though, I'm like literally talking about, I'm an advocate for decommodifying housing. And we're literally talking about a fucking small part of the overall much larger problem. So I hate having this conversation over and over again. Exactly. It's absolutely taking the bait off the industry, trying to deflect focus on grandma and her infamous cakes is dumb. Exactly. Thank you. And that's what's really fucking annoying, especially because like Jake Tapper knows the situation. I'm assuming he also personally owns a bunch of fucking houses too. It would not be surprising to me. These people haven't lived in dog shit apartments right next to their also poor landlord before in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. That's what I mean. Like, these fucking hella people that just like literally own an extra fucking unit and rent it out because that's the only way they can, have retirement. And I hate giving into this framing and talking about it over and over again because there's like dumbass fucking people in my chat who are like, fuck those people, fuck those people. Sorry, but so long as those landlords are willing and able to forcibly remove people from their homes, this is violence. Fuck those pigs. I don't have a problem. I agree with that as well. Don't get me wrong. Which is why I think that the government should offer assistance. This is the same energy as don't use plastic straws. That's why the planet is dying. Yes, there is no lefties, or there's no nuance when it comes to this conversation. Like, there are people who unironically can't lift themselves off their bootstraps. I love telling slumlords who are fucking screaming on Fox News and on CNN about how they have to they have to fucking evict people from their properties. Telling them to fucking pick themselves up by their bootstraps and get back to work is fun. And I agree. They should. Okay? But there's also the other side of this. Just like I tell you, literally fucking get a 401k if you can. Doesn't matter what you're doing, but you should absolutely plan for your own fucking future in retirement. Being a lefty, it does not mean that you should die at the age of 65 when you are no longer useful to your fucking capital-owning bourgeois bosses. And there's nothing you can do, unfortunately, in the absence of like significant systemic changes. You're just going to have to look out for yourself and your own friends and your own family. And that's the reality. You can live in the nature for free. A tent isn't death. Okay, weird stalker. Are you going to invest some money in houses when? No. But I do have a fucking 401k or whatever the individual version of that is. I have one. An IRA. Yeah. And you should too. I mean, this is like, I literally don't even fucking have a credit card. So obviously, like, don't listen to me. I'm fortunate that I have people who are much, much smarter, like accountants and shit like that. You know what I mean? That can deal with this stuff. HasanAbi, who's saying a retirement account is unethical? Well, technically, capital ownership. That's owning capital and benefiting from capital gains as a form of
11 years.
Building a retirement plan for yourself. That's what it is. So from a Marxist point of view, yes, a 401k would be unethical. 100% it would be. It's literally, it's the heart of Marxism. It's in the heart of Marxism. It's just like you're not even any way remotely connected to the actual labor, and you're a faceless, lifeless unit that owns just like a tiny fucking piece of a multitude of different companies that exploits labor. So technically, you are literally fucking doing something that is what the bourgeois engages in. And I've talked about how 401ks have made it so that many normal, like, working class Americans, unironically, and believe that they are a part of the bourgeois capital owning class because of their 401ks, or operate that way. That's why they're always like, I'm checking the market. Oh my God, what is my 401k doing? Meanwhile, the reality is that the top 10% of wealth owns 90% of the fucking stock market. So if you're a part of the bottom 90% and you think you're a fucking capital owner because you have a 401k, you're delusional. You don't. But of course, under the American system, under the American late-stage capitalist organization of the economy, the gains in the stock market are privatized, whereas the losses in the stock market are socialized. So yes, when the stock market is doing poorly, your 401ks do poorly as a consequence of that, especially if it fucking completely blows up. Look no further than the 2008 housing market crisis to recognize that. Anyway.
On out to help renters and small mom and pop landlords.
No, it's crazy.
Do you think there are similarities between gambling and the stock market? Just curious. Yes. Yes. And actually smart fucking financial analysts who or people that work at hedge funds will tell you that it is gambling. Obviously, there's fundamentals, so it's a little bit different than like straight up fucking playing roulette. It's like gambling when you know how to... It's like playing blackjack when you know how to count cards. But most people don't know how to fucking count cards. Day trading is straight gambling. Okay? Gambling also has fundamentals, yes. But most Wall Street bet Andes will either say, yes, it's gambling and it's fucking awesome, or they'll say, no, it's not like gambling at all, you're fucking stupid. But if you go and talk to... like actual people in finance, they will tell you, like, of course it's like gambling. Day trading is not gambling. LMAO, some people actually make bank doing it. That's literally what fucking gamblers say about, like, degenerate gamblers say about gambling, dog. So the non-Americans want to explain what a 401k is. They're confused. A 401k is basically a privatized pension plan that you and your company, if you're fortunate enough, puts a percentage of your fucking income into. Up to a certain level, it's non-taxable too. And it just basically sits there and accumulates so that when you fucking inevitably retire, you have a bunch of money. We don't have pensions in this country, unfortunately. Only 17%, apparently, according to Chatter. I don't know what the exact number is. But many jobs no longer offer pension plans, and they offer 401ks instead. And it's not money that you set aside. Yes, it's money that is going into the stock market. Just like pensions also go into the stock market, for the record.
All these daily streams, whether big or whether small. So there he is again. The sun is streaming. The sun is streaming. You wait.